Hi, welcome to this brief tutorial in your first step to starting to export your products in a successful way. My name is Johan Cejie. I am the CEO of a export and import company called Moreganic Sourcing working out of Sweden. We have come to think about the process of starting to export as a stairway that you and your company needs to walk up to be able to be reasonably sure that you will be successful in your effort. The first step, of course, is to decide if you are actually ready to start exporting or not. That may seem as a very fuzzy question, and there are so many things you can do to try to determine whether this is the case or not. In my mind, there are, however, a few simple questions that you can ask yourself to have a really good idea of whether you are ready or not. The first thing may seem trivial, but it's important. Do you have the website in English? Or, well, if not in English, in the language that is used and spoken in the market or markets you are intending to export your goods to? If you do so, well, chances are that you have developed all your communication and marketing to support your export effort. A second question is, do you have a contact person for export issues? Do you have someone appointed that very clearly is responsible to manage your export business? If you do, again, chances are you have made a lot of other decisions that would point to you being reasonably ready to start exporting. A third very important criterion, or a third very important box to tick, is your planning horizon. Are you looking for a return in your efforts to export in half year, in 1 year, to close deals right now? Well, then maybe you will be disappointed. So if you rather have a 3 to 5 year planning horizon, chances are very good you will be successful. As we keep on building these stairs, our next step is to talk about target groups. If you have developed your product in your home market, it may have been developed in symbiosis with the market. You have tried, you have failed, you have found some people that buy your product, and by that way sort of defined your target groups, or the other way around. Or you have gone straight ahead and tried to find your target group and marketed to that target group already. Knowing what your target group is going to help you a lot in the next steps. You want to have a target group definition that is fairly easy to use and that can be used across markets. So if you have a local definition, you might want to look for a definition of a target group that is as close as possible to your current target group but works in other markets. In the case of Nordic target groups, I find that SB Insights, which is a consultancy, have a really handy way of dealing with that. So they have looked at all the Nordic markets and all the Baltic markets, and they are dividing the markets into different target groups and comparing them across countries. So that's very handy as we move further up these stairways. The next step would be to find the market where your target group is plentiful. If you look at it, just different markets will have different shares of that specific target group. So if we say that market A has a share of 7% among the consumers that belong to your target group, and market B has 18%, well, that's a big difference. And market C perhaps has 12%. Well, it would seem reasonable to start your efforts targeting market B, wouldn't it? So this will save you a lot of mistakes and increase your chances for actually being successful, as opposed to if you would just have taken any, in which case you could have ended up with market A. As we move to the next step, it's time to take your product to the market. So this is not where you're pitching to a buyer. This is where you bring your product there to get feedback. It could be, for example, that you go to a trade show. You expose it there, you try to make appointments with people that you think are interesting. You may be part of matchmaking. You know all these things. Have your product enter the competitions at the trade show, all these things, just get some feedback on what people think about your products. Go see some stores while you're there. Go in there, see what the range looks like in your, in your category. How is your product going to fit in there? Is it going to be attractive compared to what's already there? Can you see something in terms of how big packaging is? Is it large packaging for your type of product or small? Is it in the delicatessen area, or is it in some other area? All these things are important as you move along to the next step. And by all means, I mean, if you can find a potential buyer of any size, speak to a shopkeeper, try to get hold of someone in food service or a restaurateur, someone who could buy your product, and just ask them, what do you think about this product? That way you will have a lot more information as you move ahead along the stairways or up the stairways. The next step would be to decide how to manage the market. Your product is going to find a new home. It's not going to be somewhere where you just drop the product and hope for the best. You want to find a partnership that is going to help your brand, help your product to thrive in the market. It's someone that is ready to assist you and help you share your risks and invest in your brand and your market. Typically, you can divide the kind of partners into 3 or maybe 4 groups. So one type of partner would be an agent. An agent is someone who is assisting in brand building, facilitating customer support, customer contacts, sales, all these things, but they do not take ownership of the product. So you'll be selling directly to a customer, but everything is facilitated by an agent who is then reimbursed, of course, for his or her efforts. You could also use an importer. So the importer would be quite like an agent, but actually buys your product and then, of course, sells it on to customers as a next step. You could hire your own local staff. Some people do that, or not some people, some companies do that at certain stages. It depends a little bit how close you want this partnership to be. There are also advantages of not using your own staff, but having a local representative that you actually pay the salary for could be a strength. Now, the fourth option, of course, is to go for private label only. That way you will have a special kind of partner that takes care of all the branding and stuff like that, but you still need to have a very close contact there. You may not have to have a local partner on the ground, but it will probably help. It depends what product category you're in. So next step is the issue of how to actually adapt your product then. Because at this stage, you have defined that you're ready. You have defined your target group. You have found the market where your target group has a big share of the market. You've been there, you've tested it, you've asked people, you've lots of information. You have found, if not a partner, at least a kind of partner, and you talked to a lot of people about what they would need to be able to make your brand or your product thrive. So at this point is where you look at what of all these changes that they have been suggesting can you do with a minimum effort, and of course not eroding your brand by any chance, but just things like packaging size, or packaging material, or perhaps if you're going to use another organic brand in the Nordics, for example, Krav is an important organic certification in Sweden. So if you're targeting Sweden, consider Krav certification. All these things that will help your product. If you just fine-tune these things, your chances of success are increasing radically. So these are some things that you need to look at. Could even be the recipe. It depends a bit on what type of product you have and what your brand values cover. A last thing that is important to understand is that target groups can have different needs in different markets. So even though perhaps your target group in your home country, your home market, is using your product on a daily basis in all kinds of circumstances. Perhaps in the new market there are more specific needs, more specific instances where your product can be used. So in some markets, they'd be sold in general grocery retail, whereas in another market, perhaps they work better actually in convenience retail, like for example, railway stations. So that is also something you need to look at as we move into the last step of the stairway, which is how to develop your marketing plan. And it's important that you do that together with everyone that you will be involved in. Preferably, you have by now decided what partner you're going to use and how your relationship is going to look like, so you can involve them in actually developing this marketing plan. So this is where you put time frames, numbers, responsibilities. You set the branding platform. You find the channels, all these things. It's fairly straightforward. It's not so difficult once you've done the 6 previous steps in the stairway. But this is the point where you can then push the button and say, let's go. And things will roll out on your new market and hopefully be a great success. Now, if you'd like to find out more about our company or find out some more intelligence, please feel free to visit our website or our web shop, where we have reports, data, all kinds of things that will help you enter the Nordic market for organic food and also the Nordic market for food in general. Thank you very much for listening and spending some time with me, and I hope to see you in real life sometime. Thank you very much.